Hello, Katie Rustler here, licensed counselor and grief healer, and I'm going to be talking to you today about grief during the holidays. So before we dive into this difficult topic that's pretty complex, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel so you can learn how to grow through life's challenges. Okay, so the holiday season is coming, and let's be honest, 2020 has been wrapped up in a lot of grief. And what I mean by grief is not just related to death. It is also about the changes, adjustments, the anticipation of what's next or what will tomorrow hold, along with us going through normal life of rites of passages or changes in our family systems, moving, challenges that we're just facing on a normal basis. So grief is this journey that we must all go on. It's a natural and normal part of life. And we actually probably experience it multiple times throughout our life. And it's related to letting go of the expectations of how life should, in quotations, go and how it actually is. And often our expectations of how life was supposed to go is really hard. It's hard to let go of a person who's passed on. It's hard to let go of circumstances that we don't feel like we had any control of over. And it's hard to release sort of this mentality of this isn't maybe the childhood I wanted for my kids, or this isn't what the relationship I wanted in my life. And being able to say, what are the choices we have and what are the things that we don't have choices over? So when we talk about grief during the holidays, it's pretty complex. Whether you've lost someone recently, there's been a lot of changes in your life here in 2020, or you're experiencing the holiday season in a different way than you ever have before. Maybe you can't travel to see family. Maybe there are circumstances that make it so that you're by yourself this year. Grief is a very difficult part of the process of the holiday season. And if I'm honest with you, a large majority of us, almost every year, experience some form of grief during the holidays. We just don't show it. We don't talk about it, which is strange to me because as a therapist, I hear about it a lot. So I know it's happening. But I notice we only want to talk about the positives. We only want to talk about the holly jolly season, the time that we're all together. We're forced to remember it's all about gratitude and being grateful for what we have and not focused on what we don't have. And the reality is you can experience grief and gratitude together. You don't have to have this feeling of it's one or the other. And that black and white thinking is what often gets us really frustrated and angry, especially at family members who think that they're helping us by telling us, well, be grateful for what you do have. Oh, let's just be grateful that we can meet over Zoom, even though we can't meet together. Well, no, I'd actually like to still be pissed off and sad that I'm not there with my family, but I'm also grateful that I can see you over Zoom. Okay, so I want you to think of some things that during this holiday season you feel like are going to be hard. Is it not seeing family? Is it being around family and there's a particular family member who's not around? Is it just looking over this year and going, oh my gosh, the cannonball has not finished going off and the explosion has not finished erupting? What is it about this holiday season you can already predict is going to be hard? Now, I want to share with you 2 years ago, I lost my mom. And in that time, I experienced the holiday season in a totally different way. I first thought it was going to be difficult because she was gone. And yes, it was. But the harder part was the quiet times during the holiday season. Actually, during the events, it kind of kept my mind busy. I wasn't focused on the fact that she wasn't there. I felt it, but my brain was on other things, conversation with other family members or taking care of my kids. It was the days after when it got really quiet that it became really hard because then I could feel the emptiness. I could feel that hole that my mom was no longer here. And I didn't expect that because you hear, oh, the holidays are so hard. And you think for some reason it's just those particular holiday days. And they can be for people. Setting up a tree just doesn't feel the same. Being able to create this dinner together, a lunch together when you go, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. We're all supposed to be together and we can't be. Or maybe you're going through a financial crisis where you can't commit to purchasing the presents you normally do or the gifts you give family and friends. And all of a sudden you feel like something's missing from the holiday season because it's not going to the fullest of how we normally do. All of these things can really trigger this emptiness. And this emptiness is what we tend to try to fill up with food and alcohol and shopping and Netflix and our phone or whatever it might be. We end up filling it with a lot of unhealthy things. And what I learned from that first Christmas without my mom was that I had to just allow the emptiness, that feeling of something is not right, to exist. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't change it. Because even if I tried to run from it and escape it with different methods, it was still there. So grief during the holidays may not be exactly what you expect. It might be that it's in the quiet moments that you feel the worst. It might be when you're all together with people or having to meet them online that you feel it even more. It's really going to be subjective. It's going to be up to your experience. But the key is that you're aware it's going to show up. And grief likes to show up a couple days before the events occur with being agitated and frustrated. Maybe you find yourself crying much easier, find yourself being really short-tempered with the people around you, or you find yourself going, I don't want to get out of bed. It's funny, our bodies store this grief. It knows what's coming next before our brain is even caught up at times. And we start to be sort of testy and upset and isolate ourselves almost. And that's the signs that grief is present, that grief is showing up. And my biggest advice for you is when you feel that is to claim it as it is. I'm grieving. There are some things coming up and I need to grieve. Because as soon as we call it what it is, it loses its power of being this horrible, bad thing we want to escape. And we recognize it as just a journey we have to go on. It's getting comfortable with the uncomfortable. That does not feel good. I know firsthand. And as I continue on this journey in 2020 of feeling comfortable with the uncomfortable, I can tell you the more that you practice this, the easier it becomes. But that doesn't mean during the holidays, that's when you really want to be practicing it. Unfortunately, because grief isn't going anywhere, you will be. So claim it as it is. It's grief and you're grieving, and it's okay. It doesn't have to be related to losing someone. It can be related to all the changes that happened this year. It can be related to a death that happened 10 years ago. It can be related to expectations of how this holiday would go, and it didn't go that way. It's okay. I want to invite you to be a part of Handling Grief During the Holidays. This is a 21-day program starting November 1st that allows you to come and ask questions and share your experiences. And I will be teaching you each day different ways to handle grief during the holidays through coping skills, through boundaries with family members that maybe you're not comfortable with, you don't know how to talk to them, how to talk to other family members who may need to better understand what you're going through, and ways to take care of your mind and your body during a difficult season. You can find all that information below. And if this is after the holiday season and you're interested in it, I'll make sure there's some links to possible resources for you for future holiday time. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you know that there's somebody who needs to see it, please share it with them. Make sure to subscribe and like it, and check out my other videos about things like generational grief and what grief really is and how we kind of get stuck or in suffering and grief. A lot of the mentality and mindsets that we have around it are what keep us in this place of feeling like grief is such a bad thing versus seeing it as a way to grow.